Angela, welcome to LSAT Unplugged.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do in the legal world. You've been through the process, LSAT, law school. Now you said you're a fourth year associate doing mergers and
Yes.
acquisitions. Could you share more on that?
Yes, so I'm in my fourth year, as you said, and I do a lot of representing companies who are selling or buying companies. And so I just find myself on the buyer side more often than not, but represent both sides. And so with that, at this stage, I'm at the point where I'm running smaller deals. And so as the M&A person with the deal, I am the person who kind of makes sure that if we need a real estate person, we get the real estate person on, or an IP person, we get, all of the specialty lawyers on the deal, but I facilitate the entire deal from beginning to end. So it starts with a letter of intent, you do due diligence on the company, and then I draft most of the transaction documents, asset purchase agreement, or the stock purchase agreement, just depends on what type of transaction it is, all the ancillary documents, and it's a really cool process. I kind of stumbled into it before I was doing more real estate finance in my first year of law. And I moved here to Kansas City, and I was just looking for firms, and they didn't really have any openings for that type of transactional law. And that's how I stumbled into corporate. And I'm like really happy that that's where I ended up, because I just love deal work so much.
Oh, wow. And it sounds like I got the sense that you're kind of orchestrating things and kind of pulling it all together. Is that correct?
Yes, I like to describe it as like I'm the quarterback of the deal. That's exactly what it is. And the cool part about M&A law is that as the M&A attorney, I get exposure to so many different types of industries, for one, but also just like I said, I work with a lot of the specialists. So at this point, I could draft a triple net lease, you know what I mean? I don't, I stay in my lane, but I have that exposure. And once you do a number of transactions, you just have that knowledge. And so it's really, really cool because it allows me to get exposure to so many different areas that I probably wouldn't if I had stayed in the path that I was on.
Well, very interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you're at the intersection of so many things. You can really become a master of all of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
It's really cool.
Nice. And I know you already finished law school, you're practicing now, but as you see people entering law school now and the prospect of it being online, how does all of that strike you?
Honestly, I feel a little bad for them. Law school, the experience of law school is one like no other, right? And there's just certain things that they won't be able to experience if law school continues to be online, for a long time to come. One of the things that, you hear about law school, like the dreaded cold calling, it sucks, it's scary, but it's a part of the process. We all have those kind of horror stories or, war stories from law school. And also the way it works in law school is you are in a section, right? So you become very close with your other, your law school cohorts. And I just don't know how that's going to happen online. I don't know how those connections will be made online. And so I really honestly I feel quite bad for, the way COVID has affected everything, because I don't know that they'll get the same experience as myself and so many others have gotten.
So if you were going in now, I'm getting some background noise all of a sudden. If you were going in now, what would you do? How would you handle it? How would you make the best of it?
That's a good question. So I would, still go to law school. I don't know that I would let this stop me. I know some people have been talking about deferring and things like that, but honestly, this is something that is affecting every industry, right? The legal industry is not exempt. And so one thing that I'm realizing is you kind of have to just adapt, adjust, and roll with the punches. And the only reason why it seems so undesirable is because that's all we know, right? So we don't even know that virtual law school is not great. It's just something that's new. So I would go in, I would not be afraid to reach out to people. I would not be afraid to have virtual lunches, virtual study sessions, all of that, because it is important to make those connections. And, the way the world is going, things are just going to be virtual. It's kind of like, even in my practice today, I before all of this happened, the thought of working from home, I was like, there's no, I can do it. I will be distracted. And at this point, I don't want to go back. I have virtual lunches with other associates. We have weekly meetings and it feels okay. And so I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to people and still try to make connections, even though you're not in person. That's probably the biggest thing that I would say.
Thank you for that. And definitely some good advice there. So you're running the Aspiring Boss, right? Can you share a little more about that?
Yeah, so I started the platform because I just was a person who didn't have much experience in law. I didn't have much experience in finances, but I knew that I want to be a person who, does things that are essential to wealth building and just overall having a good life, right? So it started off where I was really talking about finances. And I did a couple of videos about, my life as a lawyer. And in those videos really took off and I've got a lot of messages. And I realized, like, Angela, you can be the person that you were looking for in law school, because I had no family members who were lawyers. I had no one to reach out. And there were so many things that I did not know. And I kind of say it all the time. I just kind of stumbled into success because I was not prepared. And so if I can change one or two people's trajectory because they got to, talk to me or see some of my videos, that would be, just the best for me. So really at this point, I'm looking to be like the virtual, mentor.
Well, that's very generous of you. And I would definitely encourage folks to check you out, the Aspiring Boss. And thanks so much for joining, Angela. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your insights for my audience.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.